Hello, everybody, and welcome to an episode of Let's Talk Dog Business. And on today's episode, we have the one, the only, Mr. Kane Baron. How are you, my love?
Living the dream.
Living the dream.
How are you?
Oh, yeah. We're very well, thank you.
Yeah, so on today's episode, like for those of you who don't know, Kane is actually one of the mentors we have in our pod classes, which we will get into as this episode evolves.
Look at that. Oh my God. Could have seen
And
that
whilst
coming.
this is happening, there is a camera flying all around the room. So this is rubbish listening. So we're going to get into it. So Kane, please do introduce yourself for everyone out there who's listening.
Oh, you're one of those podcasts where I have to do the heavy lifting.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly that.
I see. Okay, so where do we start? I am Kane Baron. I run Progressive Media, which has recently been rebranded to Disruptive Media. We're the largest podcast agency in the UK. And apparently we take any old client because we work with you guys.
Oh my gosh.
This is going to be one of these episodes, isn't it?
It is. I'm on smoke today. So my speciality is branding content for commercial purpose. So how do we actually monetize our content? So marketing, sales, predominantly through podcasting and long form content.
I love it. Nice and succinct.
Very succinct. Good elevator pitch. But we want to know more than that. We want to know your story. We're going to take you back to young Kane. I want you to tell the story, because I like hearing this story, about how you got to where you are today.
Oh, okay. So how long were we rewinding? 10 years ago now. So I'm 26 now. The point I was 16 and my very first job was at Costa Coffee, just around the corner from where you're filming today, actually, in Peterborough. And it was a drive-through. So I worked at one of the first drive-throughs that Costa bought out. And there was one customer that I spent a lot of time and attention on, mostly because he was really rich. So young and impressionable Kane wanted lots and lots of money. Older Kane still wants lots and lots of money, just as impressionable. This customer would come around every day in a different car. So it'd be like a Porsche one day and a retro Ferrari and a Lamborghini and like a custom kit car. It's just constantly like a different car for every day of the week. And I'll be honest, most people there thought he was a knob. And I've told him this. I thought I could learn something. Who knows? No, he's not a knob. I'm joking. But I thought I could learn something from him. And I just used to litter him with questions. And he probably didn't appreciate that because he used to come around at 5 a.m. So like when we opened, he was already there. And while I would intentionally make his coffee slowly, just so I had time to ask him stuff and talk about what he was doing. And I worked at Costa and I served him for a couple of years before I went on to do university and the typical thing that you normally would do. And then as soon as university ended or sort of coming to an end, I realized I didn't want to. I did a law degree, mostly because I had a chip on my shoulder, hated it. I did endless work experience and realized like this is just doing the same contract every single day for lots of different people, and it sounded miserable and there wasn't money in it like people think there is, not really. So I messaged this customer on Instagram going into my sort of summer of my third year saying like, listen, here's what I've been doing at university. Here's all the different side hustles I've tried. So I was essentially the way I earned a living at university is I put on night events, like nightclub events. And me and my best friend at uni, we would just put on student nights, which meant I was constantly negotiating with, vendors, trying to get free rent, bar spend. I was negotiating with like huge, massive bouncers. I mean, I look 12 now. Imagine what I looked like when I was actually like 18. Like, so and like everything was marketing, sales, negotiation, events, and all these things. And I didn't really know like what the skill was or what utility there was. But I just thought, what have I got to lose? So I messaged him on Instagram saying, here's what I've been doing. Here's the skills I think I've been developing. Like, have you got any jobs going? And that person was Rob Moore. Now, Rob is one of the biggest creators in the UK. His podcast Disruptors has been going 10 years. I mean, across podcast, YouTube, all the social media clips, billions of views and tens of millions of pounds later. Like, it's a huge creator. And it just so happened that he'd been podcasting a little while. He'd been pretty big on Facebook. And his friends and his sort of inner circle were asking him about this podcast thing he was doing. It's like, oh, like, is it worth it? Is it paying you well? Like, can I do it? And he was really quick to realize, oh, there's a business opportunity here. And he was like, yes, like if you pay me, you can use my team. You know, when they're not doing my stuff, you do that. And he sold it to his friends. And he essentially accidentally had this business in his lap that he didn't want to operate because he'd already got, you know, big property portfolio and other large businesses. This was kind of a side thing. And that just happened to be the exact same time that I messaged him. And the red flag should have been flagging when I realized how easy it was. He was like, yeah, sure, like let's have an interview. And it was like very, very quick. I had no experience at all. And he was like, oh yeah, I'm doing this new thing, you know, and we need somebody to do a bit of everything. So I was doing sales, marketing, looking after clients, admin work, just anything really that needed doing to develop this podcast agency. And then fast forward a few years, I got equity in that business. So I now co-own that company. He's treated solely as a client, is operationally not really involved. And then fast forward to the company, a venture of my own, which supports that, which is getting brand deals and sponsorships for creators. So it's 10 years, probably in about a 5-minute, not so slick elevator pitch. But it went from serving coffee to being business partners with somebody worth probably close to 100 million, all in the space of 5 years.
God, it's such an incredible
What a
story.
story.
That.
Yeah. I love hearing that. I've heard that a few times, and I love hearing that because I love the fact that you were just like, if I don't ask him the question, I'm never gonna know the answer. So what have you got to lose? I love that attitude.
Don't ask, don't get.
Exactly.
Exactly. Do you know what? This is going to end up blowing smoke up your ass, and I know it will. But
Don't do it, Joe.
I know. It almost has a bit of resonance of Daniel Priestley in that. So very similar, like the whole doing the nightclub thing, putting events on. And what I'm curious as to what made you even want to do that, because that in itself it's not a usual thing to do, is it? It's not, I was going to say like normal, but none of us are normal in this room, let's face it. But it's not something where you're going to go, I'm at uni, I'm going to do my studies, but I'm also going to do this thing because there's an opportunity in it. So what was the thought process behind that?
So it was completely by accident and almost out of desperation. So I don't know if you know this, that how much you get for your student loan can be affected by so many different things. So to rewind a little bit, my parents got completely fucked in the 2008 crash and lost pretty much everything. And they didn't own a house from then. They rented from then until about 2017, 2018. So like 10 years getting back on their feet. And the only reason they could buy at that point is my dad got to an age where he was able to take out some of his pension. And then that was like a sizable deposit on a house. And student finance factored that in, that, oh, your parents have this money. Because neither of like my parents earned like really good money after 2008. They were completely ruined. And we didn't have much money. So as soon as they took out that lump sum, which then immediately went into this house so that they could have some sort of security, even though they didn't have all this extra money in the bank account or, you know, earning, student finance were like, oh, okay, cool. Like you will get a minimum maintenance loan. So I essentially had like no money at all. So I had to work and I had to do these things. And my friend, Kudzi, who I think you guys know, he's the one who I was running nightclub events with. And he met somebody at university who was already doing that as a company. So we went and worked for them for a handful of shifts and then just cleaned up right away. And by the way, this is a proper, bear in mind, it's not even that long ago. This is proper old school. We'll just stand on the street at like 1 a.m., like hollering people into clubs. It was so dodgy and incredibly cold because it's like term time. So it's like November, it's 1 a.m. What the fuck am I doing? But it was like, you know, it was cash in hand. The hourly wage wasn't too bad, but then essentially after like the first shift, we just completely smashed it, and it was just a cash in hand job, like a hourly wage. But because we was doing so much better than, I think they must have had like 10 or so other reps, like miles better, we're like, we want to cut. They're like, we want like a commission. And then we just kept doing it, and we were having so much fun with it because we're uni students, we were able to drink for free, we was earning like quick cash, although it wasn't like a lot of money. But like, this is really easy, naively, by the way. I think, which is like rule 101 of starting any business, and you've got to think it's easy to start, otherwise you won't ever start it. Um, so then we're like, fuck it, we'll just do our own. Like, why are we doing this for, £7 an hour when we know the event organizers are clearing, 1 to 4K profit on a Tuesday and 10K profit on a Saturday night? So it's pretty good money. And obviously there was so many of these different moving parts of the events that we didn't know about, but we're like, fuck it, we'll give it a go. So it was kind of, I really needed a job because I was on an £8 a week shopping budget, which was like pretty
few pot
ropey.
noodles.
Yeah, it was like I was malnourished, which is like not the brain food you need to a degree. It was pretty rough. And then that was, by the way, within that £8 is also like my just all of my budget. So if I wanted to go out, that's within that £8. So I was like, oh well, if this job came up where I could drink for free and get paid, I was like, two birds, one stone. So it's completely sort of an accident. I had no intentions of it, and it was only when we went in there and was like, actually, this isn't that hard. Let's just give it a go, and we're naturally pretty good at it. They're like, okay, well, let's just do what we're good at and make money that way rather than trying to think of something else. But at the same time, starting those events were quite slow, and I've always been interested in marketing. So then the second thing I was doing during university was I went to Lincoln. So the benefit of being in Lincoln is it's quite old, and there's a lot of independent places, which can sometimes be a disadvantage. But for this specific business, it was great because as the university was growing and they were pumping more money in and more chains were coming and the city was reinvesting into Lincoln, these independent places are getting wiped out left, right, and center because they just can't compete with, like a TJ Fridays or an All Bar One or like all these like big brands. Because most of them didn't even have a website or a Facebook page. And I knew fuck all about marketing. I could make a website ish. So what I did is I just went up and was like, how are you supposed to compete with these big dogs coming in if you haven't even got a Facebook page or a Google? Because if I or a Google business thing, because if I Google cafe near me, it's like, well, it's going to come up with Cafe Nero and Costa and Starbucks, and you haven't even got any sort of presence. So I wasn't trying to sell virality or getting 1 million views or anything like that. It was just the bare minimum of, can you be found online? And because I didn't really know what I was doing, I would get them to pay me up front. I would go back to my dorm, and then I would find somebody on Fiverr to do all the work, somebody from the Philippines, and it was just an arbitrage business. So I might get paid £500 for this website, plus a little bit of maintenance each month, and then I'll probably pay £200 for somebody in the Philippines to do it, and I just bank the rest. So between those two things, that's essentially how I earned money, but also managed to develop some pretty useful skills, or at least useful to Rob, which was enough for me to get a job.
Wow. I see, I look at that and I'm like, initially, it sounds like the driver was money. Like you needed more money, you had none. And I think that's probably how it started. But like for me, I'm seeing this the entrepreneurial spark very early on. And that is something that not many people have. And that kind of like, I don't know, it's like that woe is me thing of like, I've got no money, I can't do anything. I'm just going to have to put it with this situation for as long as I put it with it. Or in your case, it's like, we'll do something about it. And actually we are really good at it, and we recognise that we're really good at it, and we can make it better, and we can develop it in this way and that way. And like, you seem to have this like 3D lens about looking at anything, like from our experience anyway, of going like, there's an opportunity there. You can make that something better than what it is. So do you feel like you always had that inside you? Was that always there and it was waiting to come out? Or do you think it's something that developed so. Or...
Yeah, so I'll tell you a story that I was told recently by my mum. So I remember my parents' wedding. So they actually got married abroad, and then they came back and they did like the wedding with like everybody. I must have been like 4 or 5. And so obviously I'm from Peterborough. You may have been to the Marriott in Peterborough. That's where the reception was. and there's a like the big function room in the Marriott, and then you have to go outside to a bar. So it must have been like 4 or 5. And this was like going back, 20 years. So bar staff weren't strict. And I was going to get the adults drinks, but I kept the change because obviously it was cash only. So like that was, I spent the whole of like my parents' wedding day making like, I don't know, 30 or 40 quid, just like 50p at a time. Just going like, yeah, I'll go get you a drink. I'll go get around to the table. Honestly, like a 5-year-old. So I think, I made some money that way. And a lot of people don't know this. This is really fucking embarrassing. And it's definitely not going to help me in the romantic department by any means.
I'm
but my
intrigued
first,
now.
I can't wait for
yeah.
this.
Did I ever tell you what my first job was?
No, don't think so.
I was a magician for weddings.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
awful.
I love this.
No, it's awful. Yeah, my first gig, I was 11. I was 11 or 12. It was the summer going into year 7. And I did that all the way through to my A levels. So that's how I made money that way again, like cash in hand, things like this. Never like massive money or anything like that. But yeah, so I used to do events. I've always been, I think I've always tried to find a way to make a buck, and that's something that's happened like pretty early on. And I think I really enjoy seeing other people's businesses. I listen to like a stupid amount of different people make money in different ways. And I think there's always overlap. So when I'm speaking to clients that are trying to build a certain thing, I love having that conversation with them. It's like, oh, you could do this, or you could do this, or somebody in this completely different sector did it this way. I wonder if that translates to your niche. Like I really do love that stuff, and I think I've got a bit of an eye for it. But it definitely does, or did come from just wanting to make money.
Yeah. There's so much in this, isn't there? Because like Vicky already said, there are so many people that will sit there and are highly likely listening to this episode thinking like, oh, it's really hard out there. Like I'm not getting any money. No, there's no inquiries coming in. It's all a bit bleak. I haven't used bleak on the podcast for a while. But do you know what I mean? It's feeling really crappy. And then all of the, like just chucking a load of economic stuff of like cost of living crisis, all the stuff that is always there. I imagine for somebody who thinks the way that you do, you could look at people in that scenario and go like, well, there's opportunity there. There's always opportunity. So what would you, I hate the word advice, but what kind of goes through your head when people are in that situation where it does genuinely feel really fucking hard for them out there? Because you are definitely a personality type after my own heart. I operate a lot like this, where I'm like, right, fucking hell, come on, let's get it done with kindness and with love. Those of you who work with me, you know this. But yeah, it's got to come from that place of actually recognizing that you have the opportunity to do something about it as well.
Yeah, I think yeah, you and I are definitely very similar. I'm working on the kindness and love bit. I need like a new software update to get that emotion, I think, but we'll see. I don't know. I think the best way I've seen this articulated was, I can't remember what podcast he was on, but Alex will knows he was on podcast. It might have been Chris Williamson's Modern Wisdom. And so he's obviously had a training business similar to us. And he always says the same thing, which is, somebody comes to you and they go, I want a dog training business. I want to work for myself. I want to scale up and I want to make more money and I want to be able to look after my family. It's like, okay, good. Do you understand that business is going to be hard? And people go, yes, I understand. It's like, cool. This is what hard feels like. And I think he just put it perfectly. And it almost needs no explanation. It's like, this is what hard feels like. Everybody, it's the same thing with like the gym. I've always been like okay with that sort of thing. I've got a personal trainer out here now, and so sometimes when you train by yourself, you think like, oh, like that was tough. Yeah, that was hard. It's like until you train with somebody else who is shouting at you, and it's like, no, you've got another 3 more reps after you think you've stopped every single step. So, and then you leave that and you're on your ass and you're, That's what hard feels like. It's like, because you go into it and you go, oh yeah, it's going to be hard. It's like, yeah, but when you can't breathe, that's pretty hard. So I think the short of it is, with love, suck it up. Um, it's kind of what you signed up for.
Yeah, good statement.
It's almost like mic drop, boom. Just
Yeah.
it is difficult, isn't it? Because we do understand it, and certainly from, I think in the dog world I don't think this actually is a thing. I think it's something we put in there because I'm certain it will be across various different industries as well. But there's the added element of the emotional toll that comes along with working with an animal that can't speak for itself, and you're almost having to do, you've got that double pronged attack where you're working with the dog and you're trying to make sure that their needs are met and that they're getting what they need. Then you're looking at it from the human side of it and going like, okay, well, are you getting what you need from me as well? And it comes up quite a lot. And I often used to say this when I was really heavily involved in my dog training business, of like, I feel like I'm a marriage counsellor more than I am a dog trainer. Like, I literally just sit there and listen to people's problems all day long, and I get very little done with the dog. And it's something that I think is perceived as a bad thing. Do you find that, Vic?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Did you ever feel like that?
No, because that's the job.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah. I went into it with my eyes wide open and went, it's a people job. It's not a dog job. Like, that's how you deal with it. And I don't think I ever sat there and went, oh my God, it's too much about the people. It's too much about, I have to factor that in. I have to factor this in. That's what you that's what you signed up for. And then you have to grow the business, and then you have to make lots of money, and as much money as you need. But I don't know. I think, again, it's like that expectation thing of I went into it knowing it was going to be difficult, and that's how I always viewed it.
Yeah, it's a challenging one, because I'm sure actually, even in your line of work, Kane, that you're going to have people come to you with stuff that's technically not related to anything that you're offering. I thought you'd frozen there.
Sorry,
you were so deadly still.
Yeah, no, it did. It broke up a little bit. Say again.
I'm sure you have it in your line of work as well, where you've got people coming to you and it's totally unrelated to the thing that they're actually paying you for, and you end up being a bit of an agony aunt, or uncle in your case.
Yeah, all the time. Well, that's how our business has developed for the better, though. So realistically, our minimum viable product, our MVP to start with, was we would do your audio podcast, and we would do your titles, we'd do your show notes, and we'd do your logo. That started that way. And then it wasn't until people go, moaning about their social media manager and how shit they are and all the things they're doing wrong. So, no, I reckon we could probably take care of that. Or, they go to a studio and they come back and the footage is all ruined. So maybe we could build a studio and you could just film with us. And, I'm not making any money through my podcast. So maybe I could learn to get you a sponsor. Or, maybe I can get pretty good at building digital products and sort of turning that into a bit of a funnel. And over the course of years, really, is like the moaning from our clients is what is given us our USP of being, having this ability to be like, we'll do literally everything, including all the money bit, and be more commercially focused, and then help you and advise you with your business side of things. And even to the extent, I mean, we're not financial advisors, but, a lot of creators, there's some clever things you can do around tax and stuff like that we can talk to you about. So it's like, there's quite, when people say, what do you do? It's a really hard question to answer because we do so much for people now, but that all stems from people moaning, and I think there's a lot of value in that. And also, it's kind of nice when you go into a line of work and you kind of go in ignorant, because if you're saying to a dog trainer, if somebody's listening to this and they've never ever done it before and they're just thinking about it, and it's like, you've got to listen to people's problems all the time, you think fuck that, or I would definitely think fuck that. Whereas when you're already in it and you're like, okay, this isn't like the best bit of the job, but it's part of the job. I think being going into these things a bit ignorant is probably a good thing, otherwise most people will never start.
Yeah, it's true. I always recall you saying that you're really grateful going into mentoring positions, feeling really ignorant about what you were going to get at the end of it.
Oh, God, yeah.
It's like, let's tear your soul open and let's see what's inside.
There's no way I would have done any of it. No. But that's kind of, on reflection, I'm like, oh, shit. Look what it's done to me. But look what a better person I am for it as well. Yeah, it was hard. Yeah, it was scary. Yeah, it was like, fucking hell, pushing myself out my comfort zone. But you've got to do that. You've got to do that to make a change.
Yeah. Do you know, as we're talking through all of this, and I always think this when we're doing the podcast recordings as well, of there's so many ways people could look at owning a business. And I think, again, the dog world is it's quite hobbyist, isn't it? So like people will be doing it alongside full-time jobs, or they're just dabbling because maybe they're in a fortunate enough position that we can just dabble and just do things. It's definitely a passion-led thing. I would say there is a few, you're always going to get some, but it's a smaller percentage where someone's gone in and thought, do you know what? That dog world is quite lucrative. I'm going to go in and make a fuck ton of money training dogs.
I think it's also an escapism from the corporate world as well. I think it's that outlet for a lot of people, actually, which is why they do it alongside a really hard, like long-houred 9-to-5 kind of corporate job.
Yeah. That's how I started it.
Yeah, exactly how you started, yeah.
So, but yeah, it's just...
What was your
I just
turning
find
point?
For me, I always really enjoyed like human psychology, and it's what I studied at. I say studied at college. I use that term very loosely because I didn't turn up to half of the I can't call them sessions, half of the lectures because I was out working. I was doing 3 different jobs whilst I was like 15. It was great. That side anyway. But I was always really interested in the psychology side of it, and I'd pushed myself to a career where I was an account director in like a really fancy marketing agency, and then I got my dog, and it was a husky, and everyone in the dog world now is going like, you fucking idiot, like what are you doing getting husky for your first dog? Kind of like what we said to you about yours.
Yeah.
And then I just really enjoyed it, and it did almost feel a bit of an escapism, but for me I just found it fascinating that I was able to have a relationship with a thing that wasn't a human, and that I could almost, sounds really weird, and I hate these words that are going to come out of my mouth now, but the fact that I could have an impact on an animal, and an animal was going to listen to me, and we wasn't speaking the same language, and like I had to really figure out how to communicate with her, with my dog. And I just loved it. And then as soon as I thought, oh my God, I could actually run a business, it's like 2 things that I just really wanted to do. It was like, I've always loved the business side of it, and I feel really suited to being that entrepreneur. You know, when you just get that gut feeling and you're like, you're lit up inside, go like, oh my God, like I want that thing that you've got. And I used to go to these dog conferences and I'd hear people running their own dog business, and I kind of use that term loosely now.
I was going to say, didn't that put you off doing it?
Well, because like for me, I was just like, oh my God, like you are doing the thing that I really want, and I'm stuck. I'm like ball and chained to this job that I'm not allowed to have any freedom and flexibility on what I want to do. So I thought, fuck it, I'm gonna do it, and then hopped in, dabbled, did it alongside an 80-hour work week. I'd literally finish work at like 6 o'clock after being in the office at 5 a.m. Like drive 30 minutes and do a dog appointment, and then head back to the office and do more work to finish off the day job. And then I'd work all weekend as well.
Jesus.
Yeah.
That's what it took.
Yeah. I did that for like 2 years as well.
I think a lot of people do that for a lot longer as well, because they're on that cliff of going, I want to jack it in, I want to jack the corporate job in, but I can't match the salary. Like that's something we hear quite a lot. So yeah, I think it goes on for a lot longer than people actually think that it will before they make the leap.
It is hard to make that turning point though, because again, if you are thinking about it in terms of trying to match a salary, then it's hard. And again, I think for me, as much as I would put myself in a category where I'm very driven, I'm very business minded. The business world itself of like mentors and the support that's out there to actually help you is still very unknown to me. Kind of like just I accidentally fell into it, and I was like, oh, this is a cult I can get on board with. Like, I quite like this. But it is, isn't it? It does feel like really, we've said this.
You've
we say
dragged
this
me
a lot.
into it now.
It does feel very cultish to be in the business world, but it's a fascinating place. And actually, I want to pick up on something you mentioned earlier, that you mentioned Rob Moore. You mentioned that you were technically like an admirer of his and you wanted to learn from him. So technically entering into that mentorship role, and you know, we know you pretty darn well by now, and we know that actually mentorship to you means quite a lot. So tell everybody your thoughts on mentorship and what that has meant for your journey as well.
Well, it sped it up. I think that's the people are very hesitant to invest in themselves, but they'll invest in others. They'll spend money on their own luxuries and escapisms, but investing in yourselves is probably the best thing you can possibly do. Like a mentor, like for example, with I was explaining this at our podcast training. So we did a 3-day training, and somebody was really concerned that they weren't going to get like guests. They weren't going to get really good guests on your on their podcast. So, well, have you just tried messaging literally everybody in your phone book to see who they know? Because you don't know who they know. And the point I'd made is because I just finished the weekend before that, I was speaking at an event, one of Rob's events that I was able to host. You know, he's given me some good opportunities in the last few years. And he was running late. You know, he was stuck at another appointment in London. He was trying to get across to Heathrow, and his keynote speaker had arrived, who was a billionaire. And he basically owns pretty much half of the hotels, like 3,000 or 5,000 rooms of Heathrow. It's his. And we were doing this event in the Marriott, and I greet him at the front door, and he walks in, looks around, he's like, I'm buying this place right now. I said, oh, are you? Excellent. I'm still paying off my student loans. Kane, nice to meet you. And I must have spent probably like an hour with him just having a coffee, like waiting for Rob. And the point I was making at the podcast course is like, that's probably the third billionaire that I've had a sit down conversation with and has a number of, and by the way, that's not like a humble brag or anything like that. It's one of those, it's like, if I didn't have Rob, I would never, take me 20 years to meet that sort of person, because the only reason Rob's in that room is because Rob's accomplished so much in his 20 years of business. I just happen to be the leech that's next to him going, cool, I'm next up. So it's not just the people I've met have been beyond who I would have thought originally because of Rob, but it's also, there's times I go to Rob or a mentor and go, oh, should we do this? Or I'm thinking of doing this. And they're like, you're a fucking idiot. This is why that will go wrong because of A, B, C. Trust me, I've been there. So it's like you avoid so many mistakes as well when you have somebody who's already done it. And of course, sometimes, they can open doors, or they've got capital that can help accelerate a lot of processes. Like, I've not really had any major fuck ups or mistakes or near bankruptcies or anything like that, because I've just had the support of somebody who's been able to clear the path and go like, do it this way because of ABC reason. And I think it's important when like picking a mentor that, one, you've got somebody that can communicate well, because if somebody says to me, don't do that, immediately I want to do this thing. Whereas if they go to say, don't do that because of, I've tried it and here's the proof, here's the reason, then I'll listen to them. That's maybe something I should work on. And also somebody who's been there and done that is important, and, they can prove it. But I don't get why you would go into anything professionally and not have some sort of mentor. It's like, if you want to get in great shape, go get a PT. If you want to get incredibly successful in your business, go find a mentor. It's the shortcut. It's the quickest way to get what people want. I don't know why people wouldn't.
And don't they bring you back down to earth with a bump as well when you have a brilliant idea and you think it's going to be like the next best thing, and they're like, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Oh God, why do you have to do this? Why do you have to be the voice of reason? But it's necessary,
Piss on your
isn't
parade.
it? Yeah,
It
but
is.
you need people to piss on your parade. You need people to go, have you considered everything? Because you will make a huge mistake if you haven't. And that's what I've learned, like the biggest thing from our mentors. One
And
particular, Matt Elwell, oh my God, he literally goes, duh, 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 and you're like, okay, all right, that's that idea shelved. But
and I'll give you another thing though, which is it's the complete opposite of that, but I think probably more powerful is because they've seen everything, they can tell you, or they've seen a lot, they can tell you the mistakes that you're going to fall into before you do. But also because they've seen everything, they can see potential when you can't. So frequently we'll do our podcast training for something and it'll get to the point where I want to grab somebody by their shoulders and shake them and go, just do the fucking thing. I know it will work. You just need to go and do it. Because, and there's, at that stage when somebody's right at the beginning, the vast majority of the time, I have more confidence in them than they do. But that's only because I've seen other people who are in an exact same life position go through that process and come out the other side, 18 months later, doing really well for themselves. Like, but if you didn't do that, if you don't do that, you're going to be in the exact same situation as you are now in 18 months. Like, just fucking do it. Which is like really frustrating from the mentor's side of you. But it's quite nice to have somebody in your corner who backs you even when you don't.
yeah.
It is so good.
We've experienced that a lot. Like, I really want you to do this thing, but it's your choice. You've got to make the decision. You've got to come to that conclusion. We know that. But yes, like you can see that. Definitely we can see the potential in so many of our community, can't we?
I'm actually even going to pull out an example of there's a few clients, but there's one in particular. And I know if you are listening, I'm not going to say your name, but you will know who you are. Baby dog trainer, never done anything before, like she's going through the motions of just getting some kind of, I can't even call them qualifications because it doesn't exist, but getting some knowledge under her belt on how to do some dog training, and invested with us on the business basics program last year whilst still in a full-time job. So I hadn't even dabbled in dog training at all. Obviously hearing us spout all of this incredible knowledge, font of knowledge over here from the two of us over all the years we've been in the industry. And what has been incredible for us to watch with her is that she's taken that on board, and you can see like she's really uneasy with it because arguably the rest of the industry is operating in a completely different way to what we're suggesting. We're trying to do that bit of like, you chose us for a reason. You've seen and heard something in us that you like. And it's been up and down, hasn't it? Like there's so much stuff because it's easily done, isn't it? Even when you do invest in a mentor, and I would be lying if I said that I haven't spent thousands with a mentor and then heard a podcast and thought, oh, actually, I'm going to do that thing as well because, hello, it's what we do. But this particular person, I think she's done so great. And she's actually made some sales recently by doing the thing that nobody else is doing because she's got us in her corner. And I genuinely don't mean that as like a we're fucking amazing type of thing.
We are though.
Well, yeah. But caveat, that's through that mentor-mentee relationship to go, we believe in you, we can see it, we know this is going to work. We
keep
like
doing the thing.
Just keep doing it. Just keep going. Keep doing it. and now she's got that momentum. And I just thought it's actually just quite a nice example of bringing all of that stuff.
Quite pivotal
together
this week because she's made 2 sales in the last 2 weeks, which is significant.
Hey.
And to get that amount of money doing the usual way would have probably been many multiple clients scratching around and burning yourself out. So we're so proud of her actually.
Yeah, no, it's a good one. I always like how we need to get scratting in somewhere as well.
Scratting. Yes. Can't be an
It's a drinking game now.
We need to make a song out of it. Oh my God.
Yeah, we're going off on a tangent now.
A scratting
remix of a scratter remix. Yeah. Okay, cool. So, Kane, you are involved in our pod classes as well. So you are one of the mentors within those pod classes. I'm curious, actually, what do you find useful about doing those pod classes? Because they're a bit different to this podcast. This is a bit more easy breezy and everyone just gets to have incredible insight into loads of amazing guests that we get on, mine and Vicky's ramblings of the world. But the podcasts are a bit more in depth. So what do you feel that people really get out of listening to those?
Oh, are you gonna soundbite me for an advert? This
Oh my
is
God, we could so soundbite you. Lexi, make a note.
just
On it.
subscribe now.
You better say nice things now, Kane. Come on.
Yeah.
Not in like a salesy way either, though. Like, not in a genuine, like,
No, but in a
not a
what
pluggy
would-
way, but
yeah,
like, yeah, because they are
How do
very
they
different.
differ?
And it kind of, it falls into that category of what we've just been talking about having that mentor and having somebody in your ear telling you, don't do that and do this.
Yeah, I mean, if you want a nice bedside manner, definitely don't subscribe because I feel like our conversations are pretty brutal, to be honest.
You're not going to get a nice bedside manner off Kane. You're going to get the truth, though.
Yeah, I think I really like those conversations, to be honest. They're normally a highlight in my month. Normally get a coffee and we'll go pretty deep and detailed into something really granular. They're good fun. I think if anybody wants to grow the funnel side of their business, so more leads consistently, but it's going to be hard work, but you're going to make a lot more money, then I think our classes are definitely good to watch. But they're great fun. I really like, I don't know about you guys. I get told off for this sometimes when I meet new people because I normally ask quite invasive questions. I really hate surface level conversations. Like, I really hate small talk. I think it's autism. I don't know. Like, so I've been told. I think those pod classes go incredibly granular of like very, very specific elements of whether it's marketing, it's pricing, sales, whatever it is. I think we've covered some like really good stuff, and there's still a lot to uncover. Looking forward to the rest of them.
It's not fluffy in the slightest. It is very to the point. This is what you need to do. This is what is going to get you the result. This isn't going to get you the result. And that's what I love about it as well. Because we're literally like, no, like make no bones about it. This is the thing that you need to do to make a difference. I love that.
Yeah. And actually, I'm curious for our listeners as well, because there's a lot of people that won't be in those pod classes, and there'll be a lot of people that it won't be right for either. Based on what you have learned about the dog industry from those pod classes, again, I'm trying to avoid the word advice, but I can't think of another word, but what are your thoughts on the industry then in terms of what you do know from those conversations, and what somebody who may never want to go into those pod classes, which is absolutely fine, but for the sake of the listeners now, like what advice can we be giving them to go, if this is the state of your business right now, what do you need to do about it?
There's a few things. Thanks for asking. Firstly, stop being a whingy fucker.
Can we soundbite that?
I've opened it up.
Yeah, Joe, I think that's a theme throughout. It does almost seem like entitlement, doesn't it, with some people? But I guess if you've got like if you're saying a lot of people join sort of hobbyists, that kind of makes sense. Like I think that's more common in industries that people start because it's quite kind of fun or hobby. I think PTing is another one. People get in shape themselves are like, oh, this is good fun. But when you're in the gym 13 hours a day with other people listening to their problems, like it's not as fun. So I think know what you really want it to be. Like, do you want this to be a business that is going to grow and scale and make you really good money and potentially be your sole focus at some point and to get you out of your job? If so, great. Whine less. And it's going to be hard work.
This needs to go in the No More Scratty mix.
Yeah. The second thing is you need to know the value, and you don't ever want to sell to the low end of the market. You always want to be reassuringly expensive. And I think crafting a product. So let me take a step back. You need to productize yourself and your offering. That's really important, because if you can productize it and easily say, this is what it is, this is what you get, here are the bonuses, here are the prices, and you can sell that over and over and over and over and over again, and you get good at it, that's going to make a world of difference. But it's going to allow you to increase your prices. When you know it's like you will get this and this outcome, that's what allows you to up your prices. And that's the thing, people are scratching about for 20 quid an hour here and 30 quid an hour there. It's like, there's not enough hours in the day, because you're exchanging your time for money. There's not enough hours in the day for you to make more money. And even if you're okay now and you're like, oh yeah, I'm doing okay. Like, inflation's been what, 35% since lockdown. So it's like, yeah, you're okay now, but if you don't change anything in the next 5 years, then in 4 to 5 years, you're now struggling. So you have to continually make more money and grow and reinvest into these things. And that's another one that we said we're going to cover in an upcoming podcast is, where would I reinvest within, a dog training business? I won't ruin that now, because I'm going to actually plan a bit for that and look into it. But reinvesting to continue to grow. I think you guys may remember from our 3-day podcast training, I will ask people at that training, are you doing this as a hobby or are you doing this as a business? Because if you're doing it as a business, you need to start looking at outsourcing stuff, because then otherwise you're exchanging your time for money, or you're trying to exchange your time to save money. Whereas actually you'll never grow if you don't reinvest it into certain things, whether that is software, it's AI, it's cheap labor, it's, whatever it is, paid ads, who knows? But reinvesting is really important. So get out your own way, stop being a moany little bitch, sell to the high market and then reinvest the profits.
She's lost. She's gone.
Oh God. Oh my God.
Do you know what? I actually kind of just want to bring it back and put a viewpoint on it from you, because you invested in dog training prior to meeting us. Just putting that out there. So you went through that whole process though of working with a trainer and a behaviourist, I recall. And I'm actually curious to hear your view on how you felt that operated, because obviously from your point of view, you look at business in a different way. So it's that experience. And I think this is where a lot of us as business owners get stuck. We operate in how we think we like to be spoken to. So obviously the experience is going to be very different. And there is an element of truth in that. But I'm curious, because again, a lot of us do put this thought process on and going like, oh, people, all these people, every single person out there doesn't want to be sold to. It's icky, it's horrible, and that whole experience. So talk us through very briefly what your experience of going through hiring a trainer and behaviourist was.
So unfortunately, it was my partner at the time who organised a lot of it. So I don't actually know what their sort of funnel was, how she found them, or anything like this. But I know we went to one class that was shit, and then we had a behaviourist come around, I think once, which again immediately I wouldn't be doing. I'd be selling like packages or outcomes, not, you pay me £50 to come around once and give you some stuff. So although I don't know what their like sales process was, or their marketing process, the actual product itself was like, well, it wasn't great. So this is something that I learned with our agencies, because when we started, we used to be monthly, because agencies are monthly. But the problem is we started seeing huge drop off after 3 months, a massive drop off. But it's only, if I'm looking back over the last 5 or so years, I see a lot of the gains are made for our clients between month 6 and 12. Like, people always ask me like, oh, when do I get my money back? I hate that question, because it's like, how long is a piece of string? But I was like, generally, I do see people breaking even and starting to make some money between months 6 and 12 and seeing some good progress. And then every year you do it, the better it gets. So I was like, well, I can't do monthly then. Because if everybody keeps leaving after 3 months, it's because they're leaving because they haven't seen the results and they've got impatient. And I'm the exact same. So when somebody comes around and they do like one class or one session, like, oh yeah, like, okay, I can see in the back half of that session, like, he made a bit of progress, but you go and I didn't really do it the same way as you did it. And then oh, I can't be asked to organise for you to come back, and he's still a bit of a dick, and I'll just live with the problem, like move on. It's like, whereas if somebody is to really focus in on like what are the pain points, what is the outcome you want from this dog, and say, okay, it is going to take this much time. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, like how important is it to you that your pet can get to this outcome that you want? I think one of the examples we used on the podcast is, let's say you find out your partner's pregnant and the dog's not the best around children, for example. It's like, okay, well, you had the dog before you met her and you're not going to get rid of the dog. And you can't really get rid of her now because she's pregnant. So it's like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it that your dog's really good around children by the time that due date comes around? Really fucking important. So, well, it's probably going to take 6 months, 7 months, really. So it's like, here's what I'm going to do. I've built out a, X step program. I'm going to give you a load of stuff that you need to buy. So whether it's better nutrition, better toys, training aids, all of these things, I'm going to do a session with them every single week, or we're going to do a blitz week plus, once or twice per month, and you pay for the outcome. And here's a guarantee. If it's not suitable by whatever, then I will continue working till he is. So you make an irresistible offer, you really lean in onto their pain points, but also you give them some sort of guarantee, which is I'll work with him until the dog gets to that point. And by the way, you can put parameters in that in your T's and C's and things like this, because if they don't do any of the home training or whatever, like, you can protect yourself as a business owner. But that's going to sell a lot better. And you might sell loads of these one-off sessions to people because it's 50 quid, because those people are shopping on price. And it's like, yeah, okay, I'll test with £50. Like, but how many of those actually keep coming back? How many of those stay with you for 6 months, 12 months? How many of those are referring you people? Whereas when you focus on what is the best result, not what's the best price for the client, what's the best time frame for that, like, doesn't scrap all of that. Remove price, remove marketing, remove everything, and think, what is the best outcome for this person? How do I get it for them? Okay, I've done that. How much is that going to cost? Rather than going on, oh, everybody else on the local Gazette is £30. I'm new, I'll start at £25. Shit business model. So what is the dream outcome? And that normally means you start with the most expensive product. So when we started with our podcast agency, we started with the done for you service, which is let us just do everything for you, which, as you know, is the most expensive thing. And it wasn't until we had loads of clients but also a lot of leads that said, I want it, but I can't afford it. It wasn't until then that we then made our 3-day training, which is, a couple of grand rather than tens of thousands. So it wasn't until we had all this excess demand that wanted the thing but couldn't afford it that we then did the cheaper product. Because it's at the beginning when we started, if I started 5 years ago going, hey, do you want to buy this podcast course? People would be like, no. Why? Have you got any case studies? Have you got any testimonials? Like, no. But what's actually really easy to sell is, hey, do you want to pay us 20 grand and we'll build your brand over the next 12 months? We'll do absolutely everything for you. You just need to sit down and record 1 hour a week. You go, yeah, actually. Even though it's way more money, it's a much better offer,
It makes so much sense. It makes so much sense. However, it's the thing that people really struggle with. And they find it so hard to not look at what everyone else is doing and not compare and it's breaking outside the box, which is so hard for people to do. Lots of reasons, because of confidence, because of fear of judgment, because of the industry so bloody toxic and everybody slams everyone else. We haven't even gone into methodology, which we won't, but that's another reason why people kind of get at each other a lot. But it's looking at, it's being able to be truthful with yourself, I think, and go, what does that person really need for them to be able to achieve that outcome how long is it going to take? Like, forget everyone else, forget what everybody else is doing. Let's just focus on that thing. And that is your starting point for your whole product. In fact, somebody messaged me yesterday, actually, from the podcast course that we did the testimonial for. And she was asking about our program that we did when we launched the podcast. And she just wanted to know a little bit more about it. And she was like, how do you even start? And we were like, well, from the dog training, we knew it was going to take at least this long to get someone where they needed to be. So when we started CBA, we were kind of basing it loosely on the same. It's like at least 6 months. Really, it's more like a year longer, 18 months, 2 years. However, like 6 months is a nice amount that you can get somebody to lock in for and at least get that progress, like you said, starting at 6 months-ish. And that's it. And people find that really hard concept to actually get their head round, I feel. And me included, like in the early days, there's no way. I don't know whether if somebody had said that to me randomly one day, I'd have gone, oh, okay, that's a good point. Or whether I'd have just poo-pooed it and gone like, well, no one else is doing that kind of thing. But it's a certain type of person, I think, that is able to receive that information, see the positives in it, and then have that, like you say, that mentor to guide you through it. Because you just throwing an idea to somebody and going like, how about this? Okay, that sounds great. How do I actually execute it? And how do I make sure that I'm doing the right thing and I'm on the right track and you're there to pull me off, back onto that track if I go off. So it's much more than someone just going like, go and do it, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's also worth mentioning, and I'm not the expert on this, but it might be worth you getting a guest on. I think a lot of it comes from fear of rejection. Because a lot of people, if they've not, starting a business, you are now a salesperson. We all have to become a salesperson. A lot of people don't identify. It's like, no, I'm a dog trainer. It's like, no, you're a salesperson. You're also your CFO, your CMO. You're fucking everything, really, aren't you, at this point? So getting used to that is really important. And I think a lot of people will the one-off product or the one-off session because I want to get a yes, because I don't want to hear a no. But the thing is that if you collect 10 times as many no's, but you get somebody say yes, and you've got a product that's, either 50 quid a session, or this one is £3,500 package or a £5,000 package, that it's a lot less fulfillment, which will make your life much easier, because then the worst thing that happens, you get lots of yeses and then you get burnt out trying to deliver all the work for way too little money. You end up resenting probably the dog and the owner and all of your life choices. So whereas if you up your prices and you give yourself some more flexibility, you'll enjoy it more, and it will be more of a hobby because you get to work with higher caliber people that aren't, really scratty and giving you issues. You're gonna have more free time because you can just have one higher ticket client rather than 10 cheap ones. You'll be able to do a better job for them and the dog as well, because maybe you can reinvest and maybe go, I'll treat the dog and get them this toy because there's money in the pot to play around with these things. Or, that it's just a nicer business if you charge more money. But I do think the ability to do that does come from dealing with your fear of rejection and getting used to people saying no. And for me, it's much better to start with a higher price and come down. The worst thing for me now is when you say a price to somebody and they go, yeah, okay. Way too cheap. And I know I'm now every single time I'm delivering work for them, I'm thinking, could have paid double for this, but hey ho, here I am. So I think, deal with that. And I think the easiest way to deal with that is just through repetitions. Just start collecting more no's and start upping your prices, and just keep doing it until you get major resistance. And then until you're getting like absolute no's and people not even seeing the value at that price point, then you can eke your price down a little bit. At that point, that's okay.
Oh, there's so many things we could keep talking about.
Yeah, but this is giving the listeners a really good idea of what's in that podcast.
Mm-hmm. Right. We will wrap it up and we will let you go, but I'm going to let Vicky do her thing because I always forget to do it.
I suddenly went blank because it's you. I was like, oh, you're not a normal guest, are you? What do I need to do here?
Not a normal guest.
What does that mean?
Well, you know, like an extraordinary guest is
Right. Yeah, good save. Good
See how I
save.
pulled it back.
I took it the other way. I was like, he's not extraordinary.
He's very extraordinary. He's very extraordinary. In
Part
lots
of the furniture.
ways. Yeah, part of the
Yeah, absolutely.
boucle chairs.
The scratch
The
pad.
furniture you was moaning about.
We were
Moaning. I was just saying it's a scratch pad. Anyway.
No, they're very nice
Yeah.
chairs. They're very nice chairs. Right. So my question is, if people want to find more out about you, the agency, or Kane over in Dubai through Gritted Teeth, and all the exciting things you're up to, what's the best way for people to do that?
Onlyfans.com/Kane Baron.
Why did I expect a serious answer here?
Okay, LinkedIn, Kane Baron is probably the best place. Or I'm Kane Baron, KaneBaron on all social media. So wherever.
Awesome. Okay. And final question. We have had Rob Moore, so you can't say him. Who do you know? And you know our business extensively. You know what it is we're trying to do and the mission of the podcast. Who could come on to the podcast and help our listeners?
You're not going to like the answer I give you. Well, no, because you know who it is. It's Daniel Priestley. It's who you need.
He's
we're
on the
trying.
list.
We're trying.
I know.
I spoke to him
you
the
are.
other day. He sent me a note and he's going to get on with the PA. And I was like, come on, let's do it.
Yeah.
I was very impressed. He actually
It
responded.
took me 9 months. So it took me 9 months chasing his PA. But
you've had him, haven't you?
he'll be unbelievable value for you. And he is the main reason I moved to Dubai. So
I know.
speaking of mentors,
well, John.
he told me to, and I did. I do as I'm told. So, get a mentor.
I mean, that is pretty impressive.
It is, isn't it?
And I know that that's exactly why you have moved out there, because he told you to do it and do it.
Right then, Priestley, come on. We need you.
Oh, well, thank you for joining us. It's been lovely to have you.
Thanks for having me. It's always fun.
See you later.
See ya.
See ya.